Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Coffee with Chris, as always, in association with our charity partner, 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘁, who help local people affected by cancer, and proudly sponsored by Hill Coaching Company, here to help you become a better version of yourself today. Now, let's welcome the guest. It is Callum Howard, who is the co-founder of Limitless Film and Media, making small voices louder with online video. Callum, my first question to you, my friend, is your LinkedIn headline. I'm putting you under some pressure here. Your LinkedIn headline states that you make videos that get growth, not just views. What do you actually mean by that, and how can other businesses achieve it?
Firstly, just want to thank you for having me on, Chris. It's been a pleasure as a long time viewer, first time caller. So I'm really excited to get cracking. So, growth with video and growing with video rather than views. Now, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about vanity metrics this afternoon and about and the weight that we put onto views, but my co-founder Rob and I place a lot of value on video as a communication tool for lots of areas of business, not just in marketing. I think when we think of video and business, we either think of very dry, boring corporate videos that go on the website, somebody in a suit sitting behind a desk with a nice background of London behind them. And I've done shoots like that. We've rented out the 24th floor of the Shard and had a beautiful landscape of London behind us, and they work. But what we really believe in is that video is this communication tool that is bigger than just marketing. And when we talk about getting growth, not just views, we understand the power that video has across a multitude of different touch points and different tools. So we use the 4 Ps, and they are people, processes, perceptions, and profit. So people is how can you use video to interact with the people within your business, whether that's engaging current employees or recruiting new ones. How can you use video to improve your processes? How can you deliver a better quality service or product, whether that be training up internal processes and documenting them to make them repeatable, or adding value to an existing service? So there's an example I'll come to talk about later on about how we've used video to add value to a professional services company in the service that they give their clients. So that's people and perception. Then you have, people and processes. Then you have perception. And perception is your typical marketing thing that everyone thinks of. Within that, you have the layers of the marketing funnel: attraction, nurture, and convert. And video works across all of those platforms as well. And then you have profits. Now, all of those 3 that I've mentioned naturally impact into your profits. If you train and recruit better people, if you develop better processes, and you increase your perception, you're naturally going to increase your profits. But it's looking at actually how video can work as a profit generation tool. So we've done a lot of crowdfunding with charities. We've recently helped the Shoebox in Norwich to raise over £50,000 for their community interest side of their business through a crowdfunder video. So that's what we're talking about, is you can shoot a great video, but without any strategy around it, with just focusing in on the metrics, is pointless, because we don't make videos, we make the framework that goes around the videos. We don't just make the videos. We make great videos, don't get me wrong, but we build in that framework around it. So it's in construction, they call it a turnkey solution. You get in and you turn the key and it starts. And we're the same, right? Is that we are the construction turnkey solution for business video. So we can just give you the video and you can go, great. Now I could start growing my business without having to worry about, okay, I've got this video, now what do I do with it? Do I put it on my website? Do I send it to people? Do I link it in my email signature? We build the structure that goes around that before we even start the cameras rolling.
I love this, Callum. I love where you've gone with that, and I would actually be quite happy to just sort of sit here and let you speak for half an hour. Really,
I could. I told you before we started, I could talk about this stuff for hours, and I'm a waffler. So
no, it's brilliant. There's no fluff there at all, Callum. And you've touched on a couple of things there, which we'll delve into later on in the conversation. But linked to one of the things that you spoke about is conversion, right? And I think most business owners and marketing decision makers understand now that they need to create or get an agency to film a piece of video content that converts, right? They get that. But what I want to ask you is, how can you speed up that process? Because certainly from an organic social media perspective, we've published, I can't even count how many videos we've published on social media. It seems like it's that consistency piece, right? But we're playing with what we get. But I would love to understand from a video creation perspective, Callum, how can businesses really speed up that conversion process?
I think it's a really tricky one, because there's a lot of discussion, particularly on places like LinkedIn, around the quick tricks and the quick hacks, right, to speed up your ROI. And I firmly don't believe that there isn't any. I roll my eyes a little bit if anybody tells you that this one quick trick or this one video hack will get you views and conversions and leads and things like that, because I think it's all a load of nonsense. Because if you want likes, if you want views, well, I can give you a website where you'll pay a tenner and 1,000 bot accounts will watch your video and like it for you, right? I can do that right now, and in fact, I know that some influencers do that to that's a whole other conversation that we're not going to talk about now. One of the ways you can guarantee a higher return is if you've got a little bit of cash, is going down a paid ad strategy route and using video with paid ads. This is why I love video, because it's so multifaceted. You can use it organically, you can use it with paid ads online, on TV, things like that. That's one of the ways that you can guarantee your ROI slightly more, by putting a little bit of cash behind it. But I acknowledge and understand that not every business can do that. And actually, for some businesses, paid ads, it could actually be quite detrimental, because there is a certain element of trust that comes from different platforms. For example, TV holds a higher factor of trust than paid ads on social media. So if you're something like a financial services company, or dealing with people's money, dealing with things that are sensitive to people, actually you may look at wanting to go on places that have a higher trust factor. But as any paid ad specialist will hopefully tell you, is that paid ads, like video, are useless without the ecosystem around it. And that's what you've got to do, is you've got to look at that strategy around it, whether it's whether you're making videos for Instagram Reels or Employee of the Month, right? Interviews with the Employee of the Month, which is something that we've done before, working with big companies that want to engage their employees, interview the Employee of the Month, talk about what the great thing that you did. Oh, Bob ran a marathon, Julie did a skydive, things like that. You've got to acknowledge video is a cog in a machine, right? It's not the machine itself, all right? It's video. Video itself is not that turnkey solution that I mentioned earlier. It's the system behind it. So that's the overview. I'm very keen on giving sort of some tangible takeaway. So who are you speaking to? Where are they starting from, and where do you want them to go? That's the process. That's the three questions that we ask ourselves at the beginning of a project. So, for today, I'm not in my office today. I'm over at the lovely Barn and Broom, filming some promotional material for the Lord's Taverners, which is a fantastic charity that breeds opportunity and equality around sport. And so we know that we're speaking to potential donors and fundraisers and things like that. We're taking them from a position of unawareness and a lack of clarity around what the charity does. Then we are utilizing stock footage and stuff that we're filming today to explain those kind of things that they're doing, showcase what the amazing work that they're doing to talking heads. It's a charity golf day, so there's some famous faces playing golf. Lovely time all around. But what we're doing is we're using multiple videos to signpost people. We're not just using video as this big, magical wand that you wave it and suddenly you've got loads of clients. We're using multiple videos as signposts through the forest to get people from where we want them to be to where they need to be in a position to make the action that you want them to take, whether that be add something to the shopping cart, whether it be make a donation, whether it be attend an event, something like that. And that's why I love video, because it's an absolute Swiss Army knife. And it works at every level of that marketing funnel. but also every level of business as well.
Is what you've explained there, Callum, linked to I think you used the terminology video ecosystem or something like that, I think you said. Forgive my ignorance. Could you maybe further delve into what that actually is and how businesses can perhaps create or design their own video ecosystem, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think video ecosystem is sort of my own slang terminology. It's not really something that we were sort of taught at film school or anything like that. It's kind of my own way of saying the world that the video lives in, the context that the video lives in. So that's the context of your website, your social, the networking that you're doing, the face-to-face stuff that you're doing. So the way that I use video in my company is I'm producing content on LinkedIn, not as much as I probably should be doing. I'm going to be the first one that put my hand up and say that, but I'm working on it. Then I have a video in my email signatures, so it's another opportunity to utilize it. It's got a show reel in it. It links to our website where people can always go and watch our fresh latest show reel. I'm utilizing video testimonials on the website and case studies and things like that. We're looking at branching into doing a value-driven newsletter that will have video as a big element of it. So that's what I mean by the ecosystem is the path through the forest of going from the starting point, the depths of the forest that your prospect, your ideal customer persona starts in, and then the beautiful clearing with the oasis and the beautiful drinking water that is your product and service, getting them along the path and all of the different touch points that you'll utilize along that way, and how video can really seamlessly just integrate itself into all of those touch points.
I love that analogy, Callum. I think that analogy is genius because so many businesses, and obviously I see this all the time with the organic social stuff and the strategy and the content that we're constantly pushing out for people, is I think sometimes businesses make the mistake of investing in a video or a campaign, but so often it's one video rather than 50 smaller ones per se.
100%.
And actually within that video, it covers everything. So the business owner is like, great, jobs.
I've made my video now. I mean, we see it so many times. People come to us and say, I want a video for my website. And the first question I ask is, okay, great, why? And then they go, oh, because my mate Bob's got one and his looks really good, so I want one as well. And I love that opportunity because it's the opportunity for me to go, right, let's have a look, shall we? Let's have a look at that forest and have a look at how we can still get you, because they're right, all right? Bob's video does look good and it has a function to serve, but as we'll talk about a little bit later, we've got a little bit of a process of how we can turn Bob's one great video into that big ecosystem on an incredibly affordable and time-friendly way.
It's really, really cool, Callum, all of this stuff. It is. I actually just want to quickly just rewind, actually. There was a point you made earlier, which I thought was brilliant. And it was about putting paid spend behind video. Again, something I see all the time is people have invested in video. They throw it out on organic social and they just hope that it reaches their target market. They hope they're hitting and hoping, to use a football analogy, right? And if you're not angling your shot, you're never going to get towards the goal, to use a football analogy again there. So I think it's really important that people do put some paid spend behind it. And I think you're right to highlight that it can be expensive, Callum, but at the same time, even if you're just putting a little bit behind one of your key videos, it's going to help. I would just really encourage that the businesses, even if you can't potentially, afford to invest in a paid social specialist to actually do that, why not dabble yourself and try to actually get your video in front of some of your target market?
100%.
Callum, I love this. We're going from tangents already, which is what this Coffee with All the Chris is all about. But let's go into the vanity metrics point. And I'd love to get your take on this, because something that I'm seeing with the rise of TikTok is, we can get my mate down the pub, Derek, he got 150,000 views, and all he did was he took his shoe off and threw it on beer can. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but how is that going to convert for your business, right? And so my point for you is, why do you think businesses are getting so distracted by, I guess, just reach and not focusing on videos that convert? Why are they doing that, Callum?
I think it's human nature. I think we want to be able to, whether it's we've got the CEO breathing down our neck, or the marketing manager wanting to know where the money is being spent properly, or whether you're a solopreneur and actually you can only, you've only got a small amount of resources, whether it be monetary resources or time resources. You want to know that it's working, right? Our monkey brains want to see shiny results, and views are a really instant sort of like, yes, the time, the money that I put into this was worth it. And this is a challenge that I face a lot in what I do, and it's something that I've had to learn, and something that I've had to kind of mature around. Is when I was a fresh young whippersnapper. I mean, many people will look at me now and think that I still am a little bit baby-faced, but when I was new to the game, I was focusing in on views. I'm gonna wholeheartedly admit that I was focusing in, and especially with some of my clients as well, I was worried that, awareness and brand retention at small scale and small budgets is so hard to measure. You can't really, if you're a small high street company, you can't really go out into, I don't know, say you can't really go out into like the middle of Norwich marketplace and questionnaire people as to whether they've heard about your business and then do it again in 6 months. Like that's a really clunky way of doing things. So this whole idea of vanity metrics and the kind of thing that you were talking about earlier, but with like, I threw a shoe on a beer can, reminds me of, I worked with a coach recently about 18 months ago, and he was producing content for LinkedIn and TikTok, and it was getting thousands of views, right? But it was doing really well. And he was doing some really wacky stuff, right? A little bit of singing, some sort of stand-up comedy stuff. And then it would ultimately always resolve into a sales pitch. And he kind of expected, as a lot of people do, for all of these thousands of views to miraculously turn into sales, all right? So what this makes me think, and what I've explained to him, is one of the biggest takeaways I got from Jordan Belfort, who is the Wolf of Wall Street. For all of his flaws, there is some takeaway, and he talks about the 3 10s, right? And the 3 10 is a 10 out of 10 trust in you as a person, your brand and the company behind you, and your product, and the viability and suitability of your product. So your video content has to systematically address those 3 pillars, right? It has to continuously, through repetition, build up trust in you, trust in your brand, trust in your product. And there's a gross simplification, but on the same hand, it kind of is like that. Now, so what I'm saying is, people, it's that kind of thing of when I say I like bananas, they say, well, you must hate apples, right? That's not what I'm saying, right? I'm saying views do matter. Views are an important tool, because they help the algorithm tell you that something is good, and it helps the systems and the all of the computer stuff that some of us experts pretend to understand, but actually we're just as clueless as everyone else. It tells that system that something is good. If somebody's watching something, it's got some inherent value to it, right? But it's that Venn diagram of something that gets you views, and something that is get my words out in a minute, strategically aligned with your business objectives, and it has a function of not just being a meme, or not just being a piece of funny content for the sake of funny content, because there is a place for that, right? There is a place for genuinely pointless content. And like I'm Gen Z, my humor is broken, right? I love seeing that kind of random stuff. Like a video of a shoe hitting a beer can would probably make me laugh, but it's probably not going to make me buy from your company.
Yes. But it's so there's so much good insight there, Callum. Actually, various things to delve into. I think the key thing that I would really encourage business owners to think about, though, specifically linked to this, is YouTube as a platform.
Yeah.
Because if you're creating video with the view to getting it on YouTube as a strategical piece that sits on the second biggest search engine in the world to convert, rather than you're just creating something to get loads of views on TikTok that might convert, I think that's actually a much better mindset. Is that fair? Yes or no? Do you agree?
100%. And what I would love to touch in on just quickly on the YouTube. One of the big things that YouTube has for it, you've mentioned the search engine factor. I think the other thing that it has is longevity and lifespan. All right, the lifespan of a TikTok, probably a week. If you manage to create a trend, maybe a month, maybe 2 months.
Top.
Whereas if you're, and I'll come to talk about this a little bit later, but if you're delivering value and you're delivering quality content on YouTube that has longevity to it, you're establishing yourself as an expert on a massive platform with videos that I mean, when I'm looking for answers and when I'm looking for solutions on YouTube, there are videos on there that are 10, 15, 20 years old that are on there when the YouTube started that still have great insight and great value.
So with you, Callum, love all this. So good. I'd like to ask you about video strategy, but we could probably have about 4 hours of you talking about video strategy. So what I'd ask you instead, Callum, is where do business owners miss on video strategy? You speak to loads all the time, right? And they say, yeah, we've got a video strategy, Callum. And then you spot things along the way where you're like, oh, you're missing that, or you haven't included this. So what are the classic sort of, I guess, areas that people miss when it comes to their video strategy?
I think the number one I see is not having a strategy in the first place.
True.
And just posting random unhinged rubbish to Instagram or TikTok.
Yes.
Like that's one of them. But I think as well, not having a clear structure to it. And I think there's a couple of different frameworks that we operate on, and the framework we use it takes this big sort of scary mountain of video strategy, this term that gets thrown around so much that nobody really knows what it means, right? And we break it down into some really clear steps. So we start off with the vision, right? What does the business owner want? Do they want 1,000 leads? Can they accommodate 1,000 leads? Or do they just want, because honestly, some people, and this is absolutely fine, they just want a conversation starter at a networking, at a networking event. Yeah. They know that they're doing all of their conversion at networking. They just want something that warms people up. So when they walk in a room, somebody goes, I know you. I've seen your content on LinkedIn. I've got that keyword here, parasocial relationship. Love that one. The idea that we know someone and that we trust someone because we've seen them online and we've had contact with them, even if they've not had contact with us. So starting with that vision, then saying, right, okay, in order to make that vision a reality, what needs to happen? What are our critical success factors? So do we need, and they're normally one of three things. Do we need to recruit people? Do we need to increase our perception? Do we need to develop our processes? It comes back to those 4 Ps that I was talking about earlier. That then gives us the game that we're playing, because we're going to play a recruitment game very, very different to a marketing game, very, very different to an internal processes game. Then from that, we're then quantifying what a good end result looks like. So we're using our good old friend SMART goals, and we're giving clear KPIs to that, and then working backwards and saying, right, say we're on a client acquisition critical success factor. We want to generate 15 quality leads through LinkedIn every single month. But great KPI there, really easy to manage. it's not then it's a KPI that's not tied to sales, because video can't get you sales, but it can get you leads, right? One of the things people always kind of get in a tiz about is they're like, oh, well, I want my video to bring me in £1 million worth of turnover. And I went, well, that's kind of difficult. It could probably get you 100 qualified leads, but how that's then moving from video as a marketing tool into sales, which video can help him. And then once you've got that SMART goal and you know how you're going to measure the success, you then break that down into tangible steps. So tangible touch points. This is where we come back to the forest. So where are people starting? Where do we want them to finish up? What are the steps they're taking in between? And how can we drop those video signposts?
Yes.
And do they just need one signpost? Do they just need to see something that we've done? Do they just need to see a product video in a supermarket, a product demonstration video in a supermarket above the product in the aisle? Or do they need to see repeat content and be nurtured because you actually have a high trust product, or maybe like a big label product, high ticket product, and actually it's a big decision and it's not a snap decision. So you need that repeat exposure, and then breaking that down into actions. So now let's go out there. What locations, what actors, what crew, what costumes do we need, and then let's go film it.
Blimey.
Just like that, simple as that, isn't it? It's as easy as that.
But it's really important that I'm so pleased that you spoke about all that, Callum, because people need to know it's not just filming a video on a product or a service and throwing it out there. The thing that I would really encourage business owners to consider and to understand is that the strategy doesn't stop once the video's done, which sounds really starter pack, but I see it all of the time.
Yeah.
Work with yourself, for example, Callum, as the video agency. They do this fantastic video. It's created. It's absolutely brilliant. And then it gets published. And then there's just this big
then what are you going to do with
pause. There's this awkward pause. And it comes down to what can you actually then subtract out of that video, which I know that you'll have lots of ideas on, Callum, because out of investing in one video, one perhaps more longer form video, there's so many things you can get off the back of that. And that leads me on to my next question, Callum, which is I'd love to understand from you, or perhaps get a short story into how a business or brand on a smaller budget can get lots out of just one video, for example.
100%. So one of my favorite stories is quite recent. About 2-3 weeks ago, we drove up to Lincoln to work with a family solicitor, a guy called 𝗄𝗶𝘁𝗵, who runs 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗲 Law. And 𝗖𝗵𝗿𝗲 Law is a one-man band operation. It's just 𝗄𝗶𝘁𝗵. And what we did was we implemented a sort of a 3-step process. We built out our strategic objective. We then identified the roadblocks and then the pathways through that, like we've been talking about. Then we created multi-platform content, which is thrown a big word in there, for that whole journey. So I call it, it's got lots of different names. Some people call it the content pyramid. I like to call it the oak tree because I think it's a little bit more poetic and whimsical. So the oak tree starts at the roots, right? The roots go down to the ground. They suck up the nutrients. They feed the tree, right? The roots is the understanding of the audience. So it's a problem empathy. It's really understanding the psychology of the person that's going to watch this. So going back to 𝗄𝗶𝘁𝗵 as an example, we knew that the people that were going to be watching this video are going to be incredibly emotionally vulnerable people that have just lost someone close to them, because he's doing probate after somebody has passed away. So he's got to know exactly what their problem is, right? What kind of headspace are they in? What are they looking for? They're the roots, right? And then we do a little bit of contextual research. So we're looking at what else is out there. What can we draw inspiration from? Then we move into the trunk, and the trunk is that main piece of content. And then from the trunk comes all the branches. And from one branch might come another branch, and from another branch might come another branch. And on the end of all of those branches are all the leaves of nice, lush green qualified leads, right? Or new clients. And it all comes from the roots and branches out like that. And those leaves then photosynthesize, and that is your referrals, your case studies, your testimonials.
Callum, I'm dropping content pyramid is history. I'm getting rid of that.
Oh yeah.
I'm using
copyright Callum Howard 2024.
You need to trademark that, my friend.
That's 4 years of uni. That is, I tell you that.
I think that's really, really good, Callum, because I'm really passionate about small business, and I'm really passionate about helping small businesses because they do so much good work, and so often they're so knowledgeable in their area, but they don't know how to necessarily just broadcast themselves and get them out there. Which is one of the main reasons why I do what I do. And so it was good to get your thoughts and feelings on what you can do by just investing in one video. And I'm sure
100%.
And I'm sure there's a million and one other things, but I think encouraging people listening and watching to this now to think about your content oak tree. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
And just to give a really quick explain of how we use that for 𝗄𝗵𝗿𝗶𝘀, because I think actually putting some numbers to it can actually, we've got some quantitative numbers. So we did half a day shoot with him. So we did from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. with lunch in the middle, right? So typical half day shoot for us. We then got 5 evergreen 3-minute videos. So those kind of videos that could go on YouTube, go on his website, and just kind of live there for a long time. They're forming strategic functions on the website. So we're now currently up to 3 pieces of content. Now, from those 3 larger videos, we broke down each of those videos, and we did about 6 short form videos repurposed out of those longer ones per video. So we're now up to something like 18, 20 odd pieces of content. Now, each of those short form videos, we then use AI to transcribe into a blog post. So he's now got 25 blog posts that he can put on his website or onto LinkedIn.
Right.
Then from that, we've extracted about 125 text posts.
Amazing.
That could be used in tweets, Facebook posts, LinkedIn posts, that can then also be made into carousels or attached with photos and things like that. And they're then sent to a copywriter that we work with, who then sort of adapts them and maybe mixes a few to make some nice pieces of text-based content. So he's probably got half a year's worth of social content. If he's posting 3 times a week, he's probably got half a year's worth of content from a half-day shoot.
I think if nothing else, Callum, from today's conversation, small business owners can watch this and know that investing in video is not unattainable. It is attainable. 100%. And off the back of it, it will create not just ROI, but a faster ROI if you're thinking about that content oak tree. Callum, I'm so aware of time. You're a very busy man, and I'm saying this every week at the moment. So sorry to the regular listeners that thinking I'm a broken record. I am. We are going to have to do around 2, 3, 4 probably to go through all of those areas of that oak tree. Callum, just last thing, where can people find you? How can people sort of see what you and your business is all about?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active over there. Just search Callum Howard. Look for this mug on there. I'm also on Instagram, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, where you can see some of the behind the scenes of the crazy antics that we get up to when we're on set. Like today, driving golf buggies round Norfolk, hanging out the back with some cameras. And our website as well, 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Just to confirm to people that listen to that, there is a strategy behind Callum on
100%. There's always a strategy.
Thank you, as always. Thanks, Callum, so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, Chris.
My pleasure. And thank you so much for everyone watching and listening. If you've enjoyed this episode of A Coffee with Chris, why not subscribe to us on YouTube? Why not give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, all of that stuff? And if you've got a question for Callum, he's not promised this, but I'm gonna make him feel guilty now. Why not comment? Tag him in the posts. We'll get back to you and we'll answer as many of your questions as possible on video strategy. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you this time next week for another episode of A Coffee with Chris.